Welcome to Pennsylvania in Focus. I'm Kristen Smith, Pennsylvania editor for the Center Square. Joining me today is the Center Square's Pennsylvania reporter, Anthony Hennon. If and when Pennsylvania decides to legalize adult use cannabis, Governor Shapiro thinks that a 20% tax rate could bring the state some much needed revenue, about $250 million to be exact. So why do the pro-legalization groups in Pennsylvania think that's about the worst thing we could do?
The core of the problem here is there's concern that the tax rate is too high, which essentially would keep residents in Pennsylvania from actually, one, transitioning into the legal market, and two, keep them in the Pennsylvania market rather than going to Maryland, New Jersey, New York to get legal marijuana. Essentially, this is a trap that we've seen in a few other states. Nearby New Jersey, actually, when it was launching its program, it kind of had similar issues of not being able to expand the legal market and push out the illegal market. Poster child for this problem is basically California, where you have so many different tax rates on California that it's still, the cost is so much and the complications result, and only a fraction of the illicit market has been transferred over. So the basic concern here is a too high tax rate will basically keep Pennsylvania's market from actually functioning and just keep people in the illegal market rather than coming over into the legal circle, raising revenue for the Commonwealth, et cetera, et cetera.
As you mentioned, Pennsylvania would be far from the first to legalize adult use cannabis. So given the states that haven't done this well, what state should we actually try to emulate here?
Generally, I think the poster child on this has basically been Colorado. Colorado has done a fairly decent job at capturing generally the vast majority, by most accounts, of the marijuana market is basically in the legal system built up. Overall, I mean, California's tax rate doesn't look that far off, actually, from Pennsylvania's. It has a 15% excise tax along with a 2.9% sales tax. The difference here is with Pennsylvania, they'd start off with a 20% excise tax, and then you would have local taxes added on, et cetera, et cetera. And according to some marijuana experts, the Pennsylvania Cannabis Coalition argues that marijuana operators face about a 70% effective business tax rate when you take in the other taxes before you even get to the retail taxes. So Colorado has generally kept a lower tax on their marijuana industry, while Pennsylvania, you're already looking at a higher bar. And so adding more on that on the local level, starting high on the state level, it becomes very difficult essentially to start too high and get that down, rather than if you're starting even a little too low and you see some opportunity to expand it. It's easier to grow it than it is to shrink it.
So that $250 million figure, it sounds like that could be really impacted by a lot of different elements that we don't necessarily know how that's going to pan out. Is there any other outside analysis that even comes close to the governor's number?
Yes and no. I mean, Shapiro's proposed budget, he was estimating that marijuana sales would be about $189 million annually by 2027, 2028. The IFO is going beyond that and saying this would be about $253 million annually. I mean, when you look at other states, I mean, they're still hitting a fairly strong market. I mean, even California, which I believe only has maybe a quarter of its marijuana market, is in the legal market. I believe they're still over about $1 billion mark in sales, simply because they have such a large population. So, I mean, you look at other states and you can hit 100 million, 200 million. I think, Pennsylvania, you could expect anywhere between $200 and $300 million compared to looking at the experience of other states. But a lot of that hinges on making sure the tax environment is right, making sure there's not accessibility issues. When you look at New Jersey, there was only a few spots initially where you could actually buy marijuana legally. So that hurt tax revenue and moving the market from illegal to legal. So there's a few different things that come into play here. But when we're looking at $250 million with a 20% excise tax to start with, there's a lot of skepticism that we would actually come anywhere near that.
Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com. For Anthony Hennon, this is Kristen Smith. Please subscribe and thanks for listening.